Hello, everyone. Welcome to my Enneagram series. My name is Hayden Lee. I'm a Master Certified Executive Life and Leadership Coach, and I'm also an Enneagram enthusiast, an accredited Enneagram practitioner, and Enneagram teacher. And I'm so excited to have you join us today on this series of the Enneagram about From Vice to Virtue. As a reminder, the Enneagram is an awesome motivation and personality system that really helps us understand our motivation, helps us understand why we do what we do, helps us understand why other people do what they do. And the Enneagram is so much more than just a typing tool. I see it as a map of development where we can use it to really learn more about our own type and also learn how to grow and stretch and develop into the other types in order to become the best of our own type. And each type has a vice and virtue. The vice really is a fixation that each type has, which is these not very useful behaviors and patterns of thinking and feeling that might hold us back. And then each type also has a virtue. A virtue, I see it as a lighthouse or a guidepost to try to work towards in order to break free from our limiting patterns. And the virtue will help really set us free to become more of a fuller, more authentic version of ourselves. So today I'm super excited to talk about the vice and the virtue of type 5. Type 5 is sometimes nicknamed the quiet specialist or the thinker or the expert. And the type 5's motivation is they have to understand, need to know more. And while there's a lot of gifts in that, there can also be challenges in that as well. So we have our awesome type 5 today. My friend Ellie Lane is going to talk to us a little bit about her how her vice and her virtue shows up as a 5. So welcome, Ellie.
Hey, Hayden. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am a longtime therapist. I'm in private practice near Boston, and more recently have added coaching into my practice. And even more recently, actually, I'm now an Enneagram practitioner. So it's very exciting to add that in as an offering for clients. And this is fascinating to me because I can remember back in high school taking my first psychology class and being totally into, why do people do what they do, basically. And, that led me to go on to be a social worker. Interestingly, and we can talk about it in a minute, not a researcher. I was like, I don't want to do a PhD. I don't want to spend years researching. I just want to work with people, which is interesting for a 5. And so I just became more and more fascinated with human nature and why we do what we do and what leads us to our decisions. And so learning about the Enneagram has added to that hugely.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I'm excited to have you here. And we've talked about this before. I mean, part of the reason of you not being so interested in the research part, maybe because of your subtype, right? Being the social 5, which we're not going to get into too much today because we want to talk about more about vice and virtue, but it is going to show how the Enneagram is just, there's so many nuances and different layers to it, right? How there's subtypes and counter types and all that stuff. However, the vice still applies to you as a 5, right? The vice of the 5 is avarice, right? Avarice meaning hoarding or holding on to or guarding. When you first learned about avarice, what resonated for you? What jumped out at you?
Well, I had to let that sit with me for a little bit and go back to it and dig in, which I'm actually finding other people are having a similar reaction, kind of like, what? Like hoarding and greed, that doesn't really apply. But when I really dug in and looked at that kind of, I guess, desire to hold on to energy, for one thing, that resonated with me. And, I mean, these things are so unconscious, right? Until we make them conscious. So I wasn't sort of walking around day to day thinking I'm going to run out of energy or I'm going to run out of time or money or whatever it was. But I think that resonated with me. Yeah, that I do tend to try to conserve my energy.
Yeah.
Um, And probably money. Probably money. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think the vices or the fixations, they're automatic. It's automatic patterns of thinking or feeling or behaving that you might not even be aware of. And for the five, the avarice, which is, guarding or hoarding or holding on to, it stems from fear, right? This fear of either not having enough or not knowing enough, right? And it's not just material things like money and possessions. It's also, like you said, energy, like, being conscious of not having enough energy for the party or not having enough energy to hang out with somebody, right? So that consciousness of, oh, should I or shouldn't I? Am I going to have enough energy? Maybe I want to conserve my energy, or so and so drains my energy so much. I want to, maybe I don't want to hang out with him or her. So that's what it means with avarice. It's like being conscious of holding on to what you have. And it could be energy. So does that resonate with you?
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose too with knowledge, again, I never sort of thought about I don't want to share knowledge or I need to hold on to it in that way, but maybe that feeling of not having enough.
Yeah.
And as you and I have talked about before, I mean, I could just spend a lot of time learning and reading, and absorbing or learning from people, taking classes and that kind of thing. So it is maybe that sense of, yeah, I want to have more
Yeah.
information. I like to just get the facts, get more knowledge.
Yeah, I think there's definitely this gathering knowledge and then sometimes holding on to knowledge, and not necessarily in a selfish way, in terms of holding on to knowledge, but stemming from fear of maybe not openly sharing a bunch of knowledge until you feel 110% like totally confident that you know it back and forth. So there's that aspect too, because I want to make it clear that it's not that fives are like consciously selfish and don't want to share, but there might be a hesitancy to share unless there's more confidence that you know exactly what you're talking about 100%. Yeah.
Yes, I do think that resonates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me more about how that aspect of the avarice resonates.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's not like sort of a perfectionist, I need to get this perfect before. It doesn't, it may look like that or it might present like that, but it doesn't feel like that. But it's more about, yeah, I need to know everything or figure it all out first, and then I can share. That's the tendency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good example. I need to figure it out first and then I can share. And then the figuring it out first might be a long drawn out process, right? Or it might take longer. And then how needing to figure it out first, how may that become a challenge, when you need to always figure it out first?
Yeah, well, I think you're absolutely right. It can be time consuming, and stressful, right? Because it's not really possible if you think about it, right? So, and then it can interrupt movement and change and action. And so I do have to be on top of that and be aware of, okay, like that's enough. It's okay. Where we're at is fine. Let's just get going on whatever the project might be or a presentation or whatever the task is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once again, what's coming up for me is the five confronting that fear, right? The fear of not knowing enough, or the fear of being wrong, or heaven forbid, the fear of looking foolish and making a mistake, because that's real for fives. And that's part of, I think that feeds into the avarice of really holding on to everything until you feel secure to make a move. But like you said, in reality, there's never going to be enough time to know all there is about any subject because it's just impossible to know everything about anything. So
and and it's okay not to. I mean, logically we know, of course, I'm not going to know everything, and no one is, but and also being okay with screwing it up, or not knowing something, or not knowing exactly what you're going to say, or whatever it might be. And that, I don't know if you find this, but I think the more I look at the different types, right? I mean, we're all on a human sort of universal level. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to be accepted. So we all are going to have some drive towards that, find some way to achieve that. So I suppose it's knowing that it's okay, that I'm still accepted by people if I screw it up or make a mistake. And I know that logically and intellectually, of course I know that, but it's really feeling that and believing that on another level, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great point, that at the end of the day, all of the types of the Enneagram, it's our way to get love, right? It's our way to feel love and accepted. And for the five, a lot of that is, getting love through knowledge, getting
Mm,
love through really wanting to understand something deeply.
mhm,
And then, that's, what is secure for you. That's your
mhm,
comfort zone, is to know, to have that knowledge and understanding,
mhm,
which I think is a good segue to the virtue of the five. As like I said, the virtue really is this guiding light, this way of being to work towards. And we're never going to be in the virtue all day, 24/7, all day long, because that would be impossible, because that would just be this like enlightenment Buddha state, which as mortal beings, we're not possible to do. However, it is a way to something to work towards, and we will touch upon our virtue once in a while. And when you touch upon it or work towards it, it feels very good. It helps us actually become more of a fuller self. It helps us be more authentic and helps us be actually a better better type. So for you, a way to be a fuller, more authentic, fully expressed five is the virtue of non-attachment,
mhm,
right? And I want to make the distinction: non-attachment is different than detachment.
mhm,
Detachment is totally zoning out or checking out, not really caring. That's different. Non-attachment is not being attached to an outcome, not being attached to needing to know more, not being attached to, I'm going to run out of energy. It's just really releasing attachment to all those things and just going with it, or just taking action or diving in and feeling confident that, you know what, I will be able to replenish my knowledge, or I will be able to replenish my energy. I don't need to guard it all or hold on to it all. So tell me more about how non-attachment helps set you free.
yeah, and I love that distinction that you made, because that is vital, I think, for fives to understand that it's not about detachment. And since learning the Enneagram, I've sort of put two and two together in this way, which is that with my clients over the years, I have been able to maintain that non-attachment to their sort of choices, and even to, of course, knowing, when people want advice or people are saying, what should I do, asking me what to do about certain things. And there are times and places for advice, but also, like, your life is your responsibility. And also to sustain myself in that career, I have to have some degree of non-attachment, but that's not the same as detachment from feelings for the
Yeah.
people. And that's a very important distinction. I think for me, it's been helpful to try to work on, for example, which I've done this year and I'm aiming to do for next year, is non-attachment to some very specific goals. And this is really interesting because it's more about, like, not being attached to a specific, income amount for my coaching business, right? Or a specific number of clients for my coaching business or something like that, that I actually find very limiting and rigid, but more about sort of, so non-attachment from those, but also having a very strong intention for those things. But that feels very freeing to well, detach, but have non-attachment
Yeah.
from those things. And then also some things that, we just can't control. I mean, that's what you're talking about controlling the outcomes, right? So if you put something out there into the world and then you don't really know what's going to happen, right? So it feels much better for me to have some distance from that, to be able to have that non-attachment. And then I think it's also showing up with investment in myself. And never really thought that was like a challenge for me, but actually I'm realizing that career wise, since I finished my master's degree many, many, many years ago, I haven't overly invested in myself. I've done some things, but not a lot. I've done certain trainings and things like that, but this year I've done far more of that. And so there's a little bit more non-attachment to the money. And again, it's not that I was like holding on to all my money and I would never spend anything, but it's a different mindset about it. It's a different mindset. It's more relaxed and like it's okay. It's okay. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a good example of non-attachment in terms of it's okay. It can be replenished, right? It's not it's moving from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset, right?
Mhm.
Because avarice is scarcity. It's limited. My money is limited, or my time is limited. My knowledge is limited. I have to know more, or I have to gather more. And non-attachment is it's okay to let things go. It's okay to not be attached to it because it's going to actually come back in spades. And I love how you said it's an
Mhm.
investment. It's like, investing money, time, and resources in yourself because it's going to come back tenfold, you know?
Tenfold
Yeah.
and in lots of different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. So in a way, what I love about non-attachment for fives is because where fives core motivation is to understand. And when fives tap into non-attachment and they just they realize that the best way to actually understand more of the world and to understand more about people is to actively participate in it, right? Rather than being at an arm's length, studying it or watching it or examining it, actively being a participant in life will actually help you understand life better.
Well, for me, that's been one of the blessings of this past year is being online and expanding my world, right? And participating in so many different avenues around the world, which of course I could have done before, but it would have been different, right? And I wouldn't have been as likely to travel halfway around the world with little kids and things like that. So there's just a huge window there, just a huge window of opportunity for that expansion and participating and broadening and so forth. Yeah. And again, it wasn't a conscious, I want to kind of stay limited or stay to myself, or, nobody would describe me, I don't think, as a withdrawn person. I wouldn't see myself that way. But when you look at it in terms of like this non attachment that we're talking about and that what that opens up, it's, it's a different perspective.
Yeah. So tell me, Ellie, when you are finding yourself, in the vice of avarice, how can you journey from avarice to non-attachment?
Yeah. Well, my belief is it all starts with self-awareness, right? So I have to notice it first and just ask myself, like, where can I let go? Where can I just, yeah, where can I let go? Um, Whether it is, I guess, okay, so I guess one of the ways I'm really working on it is to say yes to things more quickly
Hmm.
without knowing everything about it, whatever it might be. I mean, this could be in a lot of different ways. And just, yeah, just either for the sake of just saying yes and trying something different, or, for the sake of practicing this journey of non attachment to the knowledge. Like, yeah, just non attaching to having to know every piece of information about it, just going for it anyway.
I love that. It also reminds me a little bit about the centers of expression where fives tend to have a high thinking center, which makes
Yeah.
sense because they think a lot. And when
Yeah.
you say saying yes to things quicker, it's almost like tapping into your action center of trusting your gut, trusting your instinct. It's like you might not know everything there is to know about something, but if it feels right, or it's like I just want to do it, yes. How will that serve you to not be attached and trust your gut sometimes and just say yes before knowing everything about it? How will that help you, you think, saying yes more, trusting your gut?
Oh, I mean, it's going to open up so many fun avenues. And one of my kind of words, if you will, for this year is fun, for this coming year. Another one is light, like in terms of light versus dark, but also lightness.
Yeah.
And I truly feel that moving from avarice to non attachment is going to partly fulfill those objectives, because it's just it feels that way even to think about it, like lighter and fun, because thinking can be, it can take a lot of energy.
It can.
Right.
I think that's a good kind of start a wrap up for our discussion here. Is, the 5 moving from avarice to non-attachment can lead to more fun, spontaneity, which of course there's a line between 5 and 7, which we're not going to talk too much about right now, but that 7, there's a path for the 5 to get to the 7, and the 7 being that enthusiastic visionary, which is all about spontaneity and fun, not, adventure. Right. So when the 5 allows herself to not be attached to the outcome, not needing to know more, just jumping in, it can be a lot of fun. It can be spontaneous. It can be surprising. It can be joyful. Because you're right. Sometimes being stuck in your head can get isolating or lonely and kind of sad because, right. But we want to break free from that and be able to move more into a space of non-attachment joy and
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I guess lucky for me, my 7 is right behind my 5.
Okay.
So I don't experience all of this in a sad way, and it's maybe easy for me to jump right into the 7 because it's right there. So hopefully, Hayden.
Well,
I'm
I'm
sure.
seeing it more. I'm seeing you embracing your 7 more. But
Yeah.
I guess the bottom line is that life is just so much more richer when you are living it rather than thinking about it. Right? That's the bottom line for the 5, is to fully engage in life rather than thinking about life. Right. So. Well, Ellie, this has been awesome. Thank you for sharing with us a little bit about your journey, being a 5, from your vice to virtue. What are final words you would like to say, or what you'd like our viewers to know about the world of a 5?
Well, I think I'm going to reiterate what you just said, which is that it opens up a whole nother kind of avenue for fun and for expansion and for action, which is just, that's all part of the growth, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it. Yeah. And I guess I can say also to people, check out the Enneagram, because it is a really fascinating tool as a participant and as somebody who offers it. That's my sort of my point of view, coming from both of those lenses. It's really fascinating to look at yourself through the Enneagram.
Yeah, and where can people find more information about you? Where can they contact you?
They can check me out on my website, which is ellielancoaching.com. And I'm on LinkedIn as well. Those are probably the best places.
Yeah. And Ellie is spelled Ellie, right?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks, Ellie, and thank you, viewers, for watching this Enneagram series. If you are watching this on YouTube, go ahead and hit that like or subscribe button for my YouTube channel called Hayden Lee Coaching. And my website is haydenlee.com, HAYDENLEE.com, where you can find out about my work and also Enneagram groups that I run, which Ellie was in my last Enneagram group, and it was fabulous to be talking about the Enneagram and helping different Enneagram types from all over the world learn more about themselves, learn more about each other, and in turn be able to live fuller lives and approach their goals with refreshing perspectives. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ellie. This has been great. And thank you, viewers, for watching. And we will see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Hayden.